Okay, so good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing great. So I hope you can hear me. Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's get started. So today we'll first complete this lecture, chapter 13, and after that we'll be discussing about some of the changes in the overall grading also. Like we have done some poll, so we are going to discuss the decision for that. And finally, some details on the project report because there was some confusion earlier. Not confusion, but probably you need more details what need to be added. So I will discuss that. And then I believe there is no presentation left, right? Is there any group who still need to present? Okay, so I consider this as there is no group left. Anyway, so let's get started. So good morning, everyone. Welcome again to the class of uh, Introduction to SCI. Since this is the last week, so we are inching towards the end of this course. I hope you have learned so far quite well in this course, and let's hope you will apply this to different courses, different projects that you will do in the future as well. So interaction design in practice. So here basically we wanted to discuss. So in the last few lectures, we discussed about different concepts of interaction design. What are the different components that we need to consider? Today we are going to discuss how in practice interaction design has been applied and used. So today we'll be discussing about agile user experience, design pattern, some of the open resources, and the tools for interaction design. So let me play this video and then probably we'll go for the rest of the class. So why there is only few people today?
Hi everybody, welcome back to creating and running an Agile project in Jira. This is section 3. This will be about running your project. In section 1, we figured out what is Jira and how to get started with creating projects. In section 2, we talked about managing all of those work items, what the different work items were. We went into a lot of detail about that. And in section 3 now, we're going to talk about now your project is running.
Have anyone heard of Jira before, by the way? Not the Jira that you eat. Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. So anyways, if you haven't heard, I mean, in most of the companies now, you are going to use, I mean, the companies use Jira for their project management. And in fact, many research group and as well as the lab also started using it because it basically help you to complete the project successfully and probably delegate the different tasks and so on. So it might be the some of the information may be overlapping, but that is perfectly fine. uh, we are getting started now, and but over the time in the next few courses in the next few years, and once probably when you start working in the company, you will get familiar with Jira or probably its other similar product and so.
And you need to use Jira to manage that project while it's running. In this section, we're going to talk about creating and starting a sprint. We're going to talk about the daily scrum. We're going to talk about smaller stories or tasks and which one's better for your team. And then we're going to talk about closing the sprint and how to end a sprint. So getting started with creating and starting your sprint.
So far we heard about sprint. So can you guess what the sprint is, at least in big or probably layman term?
Sir, making a product, like ideating everything, like from the beginning of the process, like defining, designing everything to making the product. The entire process is called sprint.
So maybe the outlining of the whole project, a vague outline.
Okay, so let's go for the rest of the video. I hope you'll get more information about it. Oh, sorry.
This is section creating projects. In section 3 now, we're going to talk about now you're to talk about smaller stories or tasks and which one's better for your team. And then we're going to talk about closing the sprint and how to end a sprint. So getting started with creating and starting your sprint, the first thing we'll look at in this section. We're going to talk about reviewing the backlog interface. We're going to take a quick look at that again. We're going to talk about backlog refinement and creating ready work. We're going to talk about sprint planning and how to plan a commitment and how to set up your sprint and then start the sprint. All right. Now in the last section, we talked a lot about epics, stories, bugs, and tasks in a lot of detail. And so if you want to talk more about those things or look deeper into those, then go back to section 2 and look at those again. Here we're going to talk about creating and starting a sprint. So we'll look quickly at the backlog view. Now it's going to allow you to prioritize the stories and tasks and bugs and things that are in there. We can filter the views, so we can get a lot of items in that backlog. You can get a look at different views of those by using filters. Then we're going to create sprints so that we have containers for that work. We're going to look at story point estimations and want to make sure those are all set before you start a sprint, because once you start that sprint, you'll want to make sure you don't modify those values unless you have to. We're going to take a look at sizing the team commitment, so understanding how big should a sprint be, how many story points should we pull into a sprint, and then adjustments to a sprint once it's in progress and what we can do and not do there. All right, so let's go ahead and flip over to Jira. All right, so we're going to look at this project. This is the backlog view, and you can see we have some stories in the backlog here. We have 4 stories, a task, and a bug. We can prioritize these items by just dragging and dropping them, and you can see we can move them around and make them, in whatever priority order. The most important would be on the top. You can see that these stories have point values, okay? So you can see that over here on the right side. You can see this first story has a story point value of 3, and the one below it is a story point value of 1, etc. Remember those story points then refer to the doubt, effort, and complexity contained within this item. We have the ability to edit those values by selecting an item, and you can see that in the right in the preview pane, you can edit some of those values, whether it's the status, assignee labels, story points, etc. And then we've got the ability here at the top to filter by assignee, as well as some other quick filters here, right? Only my issues, recently updated issues, and things like that. You can see obviously there's just one assignee here, which is me, but otherwise you would have your whole team listed here. Okay, so now that we have this backlog with some items in it, we want to do a couple of things here. First of all, you've got what's called a definition of ready, all right? And any of your items that have been fully refined, which means that all of the questions have been answered, all of the understanding of what this thing is have been defined, and they meet what's called a definition of ready for your team. Your definition of ready could mean, it's got acceptance criteria in it, so we understand when will the product owner think this item is done, and other criteria will be met in order for it to be ready. We want to have, ideally, at least 2 sprints of ready work that's ready to go at any time. So let's do that first. So we'll create a sprint here. We're going to call this sprint ready. All right. Now you can see under these ellipses here, we can edit this sprint, and we can call this ready. And this is, say, work that is fully refined. All right. So we'll update that, and now we have what this ready sprint. And you can see these first 3 stories here in our backlog, they look like they're ready to go. All right. So let's drag them up into our ready sprint, and you can see it's actually just as easy as dragging them up here. And now we have a sprint called ready, and this has items in it that are fully refined and ready to go. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to create a sprint that we're actually going to execute. Okay, so let's go down here. We'll create another sprint, and this says ready to, but let's change that one, and we'll call this one, let's see, this is FP1 sprint 1. Perfect. And this is my first sprint. And we can actually take this item and we can move it up and put it at the top. So now we have, this is our sprint that we'll actually be planning, and then this is work that's ready to go at any time. Okay, and then this backlog down here represents anything else that is in this list of things that we might want to eventually do. All right, so we're going to take these items, or 2 of them, let's say, and we'll pull them up into our sprint. Now the next question might be, how do we know when we have enough story points loaded into our sprint? How do we know when we have enough work in there? And it's a great question. Usually the way you're going to want to know this is you're going to try and get a group commitment on your first sprint. And then in your second sprint, you'll kind of do the same thing based on your output from your first sprint. Now, the number of story points that you complete in your sprint is called your velocity. All right, so you use the velocity from your previous sprint to help you determine for the next sprint. Were we able to complete it? Yes or no? And then adjust accordingly. Now, after 3 sprints, you'll have what's called yesterday's weather. And the reason that they call it that is because yesterday's weather is known, right? We know what the weather was yesterday, but the weather tomorrow is a forecast. That's the best we can do there. It's usually pretty close, but it may not be exactly right. So we can use yesterday's weather, which is the average of the velocity for the last 3 sprints, and that becomes the maximum that we'll want to plan to. So given that as a team here, FP Sprint 1 doesn't have a previous velocity, then we're going to go ahead and commit to 4 story points, you can see here, and we'll see whether or not we're able to complete those. All right, so now that we've got our sprint all set to go, story points are in there, all of the stories meet our definition of ready. We've even got some additional stuff here in case we finish these things early. Let's go ahead and start our sprint. Now you'll see that we have the ability to name the sprint, which we already did, the duration of this sprint with start and end dates, and the sprint goal. See how many working days are in this sprint. Let's go ahead and start our sprint.
Okay, so at least you got an idea. So what the sprint is, and what are the different tasks you can keep in the sprint, so that it has start date, end date. Like for example, we are planning, like in the given example, in 10 days we are planning to complete these many works. So in a way you can see, usually the sprint is not too long. They are smaller, kind of, you can say faster. Basically you try to complete one set of tasks that you define for that particular sprint, and basically you keep track of that. Okay, so and again, so you can reprioritize, you can work on them, you can change them over the time. So sprint is more like, I mean, so you have some list of tasks that you want to complete, and you have set up people who are going to help with that, and accordingly you can have one sprint, different ready tasks. You can basically add the different collaborators over there, and accordingly ask them. So I understand it might be a bit overwhelming, the video that we have just played, but that's perfectly fine. Over the time you will learn more about it, how the Jira or probably the similar system works. But it's good to know about this, because in most of the industry, because the today's talk is about, yeah, so interaction design and practice. So most companies use such kind of basically there's some kind of project management tool or something, so which help them to complete, because often the project in the companies are quite big, right? It requires probably several, uh, at least probably 100 people or probably 50 people or even sometime more, right? So how you divide the task into this different small subtasks, how the different user involved in that solving them, whether the one task is dependent on another, and whether some tasks need to be completed before the another. All these things can be done through the platforms like Jira and others. So as I said again, so it's a agile framework. So where basically you, agile means like Tej. So from the name itself, it's look like, yeah. So you need to complete the task very soon and revisit and see whether it's working well and accordingly. So basically, you define a kind of short time boxes of iterative development. So like sprint iteration cycle that we have just mentioned through the example. So like you define, okay, so in a week or 2 week or 3 weeks time, what you are going to do, and these are, and you need to iterate it over again and again in order to reach to the final product that you are willing to build. So it's basically early and repeated customers user feedback. So because once you complete the first iteration, you can, if it is reached to a level where you can get the feedback from your existing customers or probably some users, so that will help you to reprioritize the work based on the customer or user, so that the emergent requirement can be handled. So one problem with the earlier software life development cycle is that so often they go for the first phase is the requirement gathering. So once they complete the requirement gathering, so they know what they have to build. and then basically they go for the development and complete the whole system based on the whatever the requirement they have. But sometimes people uh, observe that, at least in this type of framework, so there might be some miscommunication, or probably the way developer perceive the user requirement is not exactly uh, probably the customer has explained. So if you recall, even the example we have shown in the probably last or probably before that, so example of like Jhula, right? So in that case, you have seen that the the customer explained something, user developer basically perceived something, and then finally they build something, right? So in that case, if we are going to complete the whole development just based on the initial probably the requirement gathering, it is not going to work, because probably it would be too late to revert back if some changes, probably you misunderstood something and develop everything. So it's better to involve the user in early stage and probably keep iterating the overall product, that the development of the overall development and the design of the overall product, and probably get the feedback from users, so that if anything need to be changed, can be done early, so that you don't have to repent after a long time, right? So in this case, yeah, so reprioritization of the work based on the customer or the user, so that the emerging and also the many requirements come over the time, right? So for example, when you ask the user, okay, so do you want this, so they may not able to probably come up with all the possible requirement they have. So often they come up with more requirement once they start using the system. So it's better to probably expose your system that you're building, a product that you're building, to the user, so that you can get the emergent requirement all the time. And once that these requirements are emerged, so that can be considered in the subsequent sprint or development that you have. So there are many such examples. So like Extreme Programming, Scrum, Kanban, DSDM. So these are frameworks there. So Jira is also one of them. So which people use in order to make the project successful. So there are a few points that we have to consider. So we have discussed that, right? So we have discussed that. So while building the prototype, often we do a lot of compromises, right? So these compromises basically sometimes expedient in the short term. It help you to complete the prototype and probably, but basically it causes the problem in long term, because if you compromise too much with the prototype, if you compromise too much with the probably whatever the early system that you're building, it's going to somehow uh, surprise the user, right? So they're expecting probably something else, so you are doing something very different, and that is going to reduce the user experience, right? So in that case, we need to have the trade-off in such a way that should be refactored to the correct pragmatic. That it should be basically the pragmatic, and so on. So this basically arises the user experience trade-off by history of neglecting user experience, because people have seen that if you basically neglect the user experience, in a way it is going to somehow affect your overall user experience of the user experience on your product. So basically you need to keep these points, user experience, in mind. Not only you need to consider the user experience by the end of the product when it is built, in a way you also need to involve the user. So that's how the idea of agile UX come. So where basically they take the good point of both user experience as well as the agile technology that we are discussing, that we have discussed. Like you need to basically build different sprint, you need to build basically different small tasks, and iteratively change it over the time based on the different user feedback that you're having. So basically it's integrates the techniques from the interaction design and the agile methods, so that you can have agile UX, and that basically help you in balancing the research and the reflection for the good user experience with rapid iterations incorporating over the time. So the research and reflection of the good UX take care of the interaction design part, and the rapid iteration incorporating user feedback is taking care of the agile methodology. So in agile iteration, so basically you have requirements are elaborated and reprioritized rather than specified upfront. So as I said earlier in the slide, right? So you do not need to complete the I mean, in the normal framework that we use, you basically take the feedback, you basically collect the requirement and you complete whole system. Like in upfront, basically you complete everything, and you need to basically tell all your requirement upfront, which is probably not possible in many times, right? So that's why, as we have discussed, so often the requirements emerge over the time. So that's why we need to consider the iterations, in a way agile iteration, that help you in understanding the requirements, reprioritizing them over the time, and so that you can complete the project which user is expecting. It has all the feature which user can get benefited, and finally the product will be successful. So all techniques are user experience are still relevant. We are not giving up them, but when to use and how much needs careful planning. So for example, in which iteration to consider how much user experience and so on. So here the focus on the product, like overall product, not only on the design, the research part as a deliverable. So that if you focus on overall completion of the product, in that case, you can think of, okay, so in which iteration you need to consider how much and so on. So you also need to consider the cross-functional team, because you have the people from different teams. Some people are probably focusing on the, say, user experience side, or you can say it's more on the design side. Some people are focusing on the development side, and so there are three practical areas in Agile UX. So one is the user research, another is the aligning work practices, and finally the documentation. So we are going to discuss three. Yeah, who is there?
Yeah, sir. What's the software in the Agile?
What is the software in Agile?
Uh, yeah, sir. No, what type of software in the Agile for
So
the?
I just shown you
Mhm.
that Jira. Jira is one of the example of Agile framework that we have. Jira, the the first video that we have shown in the beginning of the class. Have you seen that, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
So that is the example of, you can say it's kind of software or framework that support agile technologies, agile techniques. Okay.
Agile software only work for the UX, human interaction.
No, it's not only for UX, right? It's in general, it's a in general technology which says that you cannot complete the project that you have in one go. So often you need to uh, define the small task that need to be done over the time, and accordingly take the user feedback or whatever you have developed so far, so that if something new requirement has emerged, add that. If some issues are you have just encountered while using, you can improve more on that. And that also basically help you in uh, doing the different alternatives evaluation, right? So for example, while in the first iteration, so there are few possible solution you can think of, so you try to complete all those and see which one is giving the uh, appropriate response, or probably the appropriate response time for the given project.
Okay, sir.
So it's more, just think it like, so agile is more about make it basically yourself aware of what is happening, how to build a kind of good communication, collaboration among the different team members you have, different people you have, how uh, how, I mean, who is responsible for which part, so that here the focus is on product. So because for building a product, you need to have different components, right? How these components are connected to each other, what is the effect of one component on another, right? And in basically a better project management, the agile technology basically can help. Yeah, so I was talking, there are three practical areas that you need to consider in agile UX. One is the user research, second is the aligning work practices, and finally the documentation. So let's go for each of them in probably more details. So user research is about seeks to basically categorize user task and probably the context through data gathering and analysis. So once you do the data gathering and analysis, you understand what type of user you have, what kind of tasks they are having, so what kind of context, in which context they are doing the use, and so on. So you have basically detailed user research, and since the agile technology says that you basically want to have limited time boxes, for example 1 to 2 or 3 weeks sprint that we have, how much user experience you do, I mean how much the user research you can do, since a detailed user research takes time, right? So because when I say the detailed user research, you are going to consider all type of user, all kind of target user and so on. So that takes time, right? So that is not very much aligned with the agile technology. In that case, what you can do, so you can do basically do the user research over the different iteration as well, rather than having a very detailed user research. How about having conducting different user research over the time? So in that case, so some user research can be performed in iteration 0 before implementation start, and then probably you do the remaining in the next one while testing the iteration 1 outcome, and accordingly you keep doing so and keep improving, keep adding the user research and requirement, and accordingly by end of the overall cycle that you have, you will get the final product. So ongoing program of user research over a longer period of time. So it's kind of not only one detailed user research. So in case of agile UX, you are going to have multiple such small user research over the longer period of time. So this is the example of these. So basically you can create and deploy a product quickly to get the user feedback for the future development. So in a way you can see here, so in the beginning you have some assumption, you have some hypothesis about the product that you're building, right? So once you have these, so what you do is, as the first development, as the first iteration, what you do, you design it, right? So based on whatever the assumption and hypothesis you have. Once you design it, basically you create an MVP. Anybody know what is MVP?
Sir, minimal valuable product.
Okay, so it's a minimal viable product, right? So MVP stands for minimal viable product, and basically, so once you create a minimal viable product, you basically test the assumption that you had, right? If the assumptions are good, so basically you do here the further research, and accordingly you see the outcomes. So in a way, it's a different iteration keep going on, number of iteration keep going on until you reach to the final product. So because, so in this way, your all assumption that you have will also get verified, and over the end of number of iteration, you'll get the final outcome which is expected.
Sir,
Yes.
a minimum viable product, it doesn't mean that some minimum or some like just a small type of product or something.
It's think of a minimal viable product, just think in that way. At least you can test some functionality. So at least, so for example, your overall product may have 10 features, right? So before a user can test it, right, it should have some feature, right? It should have at least something. So minimal viable product is more, you can see here. So create an MVP in a sense, at least there is something which user can try, user can test and experience. Okay.
No, sir, it's a little bit confused. What is minimum viable product? Can you little bit explain again?
Okay. Anybody want to try before I probably jump in? Anyone?
So like minimal viable products can have assumptions like we had an assumption that it's easy to use only two options on a particular screen. So if I implement that kind of concept, that kind of assumption, and develop a product based on only that assumption, then that will be a minimal viable product for that particular assumption, in which I have only placed only two options on particular page. Similarly, if I have some other assumption, I can implement it across my, like, some of the frames of my product, see how it goes, and is it really viable to implement such assumptions, some such ideas and concepts.
Sure. Yeah. So as you can see the definition here. Minimal viable product is a development technique in which a new product is introduced in the market with basic features. So what I mean there, so for example, it has 10 features. So now you have just basic feature, probably 1 or 2, right? But enough to get the attention of the customers. The final product is released in the market only after getting sufficient feedback and probably expanding whatever the other features that you have from the product's initial.
Like a test product.
Yeah, test product at least which the person can try with, as I said, the basic features.
Product carried out into the market, something like this.
So let me see this figure. I don't know how they're going. So MVP, what is like minimum, the most rudimentary, bare bones foundation of the solution possible, right? Viable is sufficient enough to early adopters. And finally, the product, something tangible, customer can touch and feel, right? Is it clear now? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
But sir, we cannot like for project we were just thinking that we should like after creating the like high level prototype we can actually give to other people to rank it or something. But then we realized that we cannot actually do that in college because of plagiarism.
No, what's the plagiarism? I mean,
No, people can copy your ideas and then like.
who will copy the idea?
So it means we can actually ask them, right, for the final review, right?
No, is it related to this topic which you're asking, or is it related to the project?
Yeah, it's related to this one only, but yeah.
I mean, as long as I mean, understand your idea will get released, but that's fine. I mean, you are basically, that's why I mean, you are completing something, right, before exposing to someone else.
Yes.
And basically you will have that age always, right? Because you might have complete something. If other have to start, they have to start from zero. You already have probably at some level. Again, I mean, you are not going to show everything in the, for example, as I mentioned, right? So you may have 10 or 20 features, but in the MVP, you are just showing probably 5 or 2. Remaining
Yes,
18,
yeah,
still
okay,
you own it, right? So over the
Yeah.
time, you keep adding. So by the time the person will do something, you will be already doing more.
Yeah. Okay.
And also there are, again, so also there is other ways to you can preserve the idea. How about before starting this, you file a patent, right?
Yeah, copywriting and all.
And all those things can go in parallel. So despite the people can see, you own the idea, you own the publication of the things. So the next part is aligning work practices. So designing a complete product upfront causes a problem because of reprioritization, as we have discussed earlier, right? So that's why you cannot upfront complete whole product, but probably complete a part of it and reprioritize based on the different iteration and probably the feedback that you have. So, but some upfront work indeed needed, like technical and user experience that you have to achieve. So in that case, you need to have some kind of so in industry, basically, in practice, people use parallel tracks, right? So basically, you do some create product vision before the development start, right? So it's not like you start the development before thinking about it, right? You need to have some product vision, at least some direction, and definitely that can be reprioritized, that can be updated over the time, but at least you need to have something, right? Some vision about the product, what it will achieve, what it is going to have before the final development start. So do design work one iteration ahead of the development. So often you need to design first before going for the development, right? Because until you don't have that clarity, you're not going to implement. So that's why basically you need to have some team works into 2 iteration ahead. So it is up to you. So for example, in the designing, you already have the clarity. So first I'm going to design this, and then we are going to design this, we are going to design that, and so on. So that you can think of in terms of feature as well, right? So for example, in the first vision that you have think about, okay, so we are going to have 3 features. By the time people will start implementing these features, the designer will think about, okay, so what are the remaining, or not remaining, I would say additional 5 features I can add. So they will be designing that. So in practice, basically, so often the designers are 1 or 2 iteration ahead of the development team, so that they can also get the feedback of the development they have, and they can incorporate in their design. So let me show the example, it will be more clear here. So you can see here, basically you have the two tracks, parallel tracks. So one is the developer track, one is the interaction designer track, right? So you can see here the design of cycle 2 is completed before the implementation of the cycle 2. Similarly, design of cycle 3 is ahead of the development of the cycle 3. And in basically while the designing, definitely you can take the feedback of the user. I mean, whatever has been developed, the user can try, and you can take the feedback and probably incorporate in your further design. And in this way, you can see the parallel tracks can happen for the plan and basically the gather and customer data. So this is based on this particular paper, a popular one. So adapting usability investigation for development, and that has published in Journal of Usability Studies. So in a way you can see here, so you have two parallel tracks, and the design is ahead of the implementation. And in this way, basically you can complete the parallel tasks together in order to complete the overall product and probably the one iteration soon. So advantages of parallel track approach. So no design time is wasted, because you are doing the designing in parallel on features not implemented. So usability testing and the contextual inquiry could be done on the same customer visit, because you can ideally what happens once if you are not doing in parallel, first you have to call the user for the usability testing, and probably another call a user again for the contextual inquiry. Since you are doing both tracks in parallel, so probably one user is coming, you can do the contextual inquiry for the cycle 2, and you can do basically the usability testing for the cycle 1 in the same visit. Similarly here, you can do the contextual inquiry for cycle 3, but at the same time you can do the usability testing for cycle 2. So in a way, it can be done in parallel, and you can leverage the customer visit and save the time, money, and probably all other resources.
Sir, is the previous picture? Yeah. So it's in run as a sequence, like from the cycle 1 to cycle 2 and then cycle 3. Yeah, it may be cycle. It is like no.
So it's more like iteration, like this is iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration 3. So over the time, you keep implementing, you keep testing, you keep designing, and so on. Okay.
Yes, sir. But
So
sir, in this the arrow shows code, and then what's the code?
what?
Sir, code.
Code is the what implementation you do, programming. You mean the programming.
Oh,
One is
okay.
the design, right? Code is the once you design, when you think about it, you need to program it, right? Then only user can try. So code is about that. Okay.
Or design giving the
Idea
design.
design is the direction, or probably the template you
Okay.
can see.
Yeah, okay.
So agile flexibility basically supports schedule change if a problem is found. For example, as I said, here basically whenever the user is coming, he will test the cycle 1, right? So if something has some issue has been found in cycle 1, so while designing the cycle 2, you can basically incorporate that, you can fix that. So it's easier. So parallel track is commonly used. So it's a very common practice in the industry, and it's good to have that. So the next part is the documentation. So often in agile framework, so what happens? So definitely common communication approach for UX is the design. So they do document, right? But in agile basically encourages minimal documentation, because if you're going to prepare a very well structured, detailed, and probably very sophisticated documents, it takes time, right? So what agile does, because in agile we have a number of iteration, and we have basically short time frames, short time boxes in which you want to complete some tasks. So what it encourages, it don't want to waste your time into too much very detailed documents. What it does, it encourages minimal documentation so that the time can be spent on design and the discussion. So only basically use documentation where it's needed rather than, so you can ask basically following questions in order to answer this. So when you need to really want to document, if you have to document, then into what details you have to document. So basically you can think of, can the amount of time spent on the documentation be reduced, so that if the time is reduced in the documentation, you can utilize in the designing and the programming. Who uses this documentation, right? So for whom you are creating this documentation? Is it for the customer? Is it for the other fellow developer? And so on. So if something for customer, you have to probably provide a bit more detail, but many times, at least in the earlier iteration, it is mainly for the fellow colleague or probably the fellow developer and so on. So in that case, they don't need very detailed document, but probably a clear one. So you need to think of what you can divide, what you can document. So what is the minimum needed? What is the minimum needed by the customer? So this is what I'm referring to, like minimum how much, rather than providing a very 100-200 page document. How about is the probably just 5-page document enough? So that is something you can think of and provide the summary. So how efficient is the sign off process? Similarly, is there any duplicate anywhere? So you do not need to have the duplicate information, right? It's just waste of time. So just keep it at one place and connect them well. So how polished does the documentation need to be? Similarly, I mean, you can ask this question in order to minimize the documentation. So you can think of the low fidelity of documentation. So here, basically here, you have a train company customer journey. So in that case, what are the different components you can think of? One is the booking, then probably the departure, then probably the journey, and finally the arrival. So in that case, you have these low fidelity documentation. So in case of booking, what all the things you need to document. In case of departure, what all the things you need to document. So these documentation will also be having the different the task that you need to perform. So you can probably, in this low fidelity, you have just the this storyboard, and in this way basically you can have the these cards can help you, right? And if the user, if the developer can develop whatever the things are needed just based on these information, then why do you need to basically create a 100-page document for that, right? So probably just to make it more clear, what you can do, from the low fidelity you can create a high fidelity documentation, so which is very small, very concrete, and not too much detailed as well. So like TrainCo customer journey, what you do. So while booking, these are the things you need to consider. While departure, these are the things you need to consider. So for onboarding, these are the things you need to consider. And finally, the arrival you need to. So you can also look for the user experience, because we are talking about agile user experience. So over the time, you can think of, okay, so what is the user experience, where the user experience need to be captured, whether it's a good, whether it's a bad, and accordingly you can take appropriate action to make the overall this product a successful one and probably the usable. Any questions so far? Okay, so it seems good. So finally, the last part is the design pattern. So design patterns, you will be studying at least those, I believe there is no design student, but in the design, for the design students, they have different, even the course on the design patterns. So it try to capture the design experience, a solution to a problem in a context, and it can be instantiated in many ways. So you need to think about the generality. So patterns can be, because just like a pattern, right? If this some pattern is followed, you can basically follow these design pattern to solve some problem. So kind of generative thing you can think of. So patterns may be individual, in languages, in catalogs, in galleries, in libraries. So once it is available in whatever the form, you can use them, and these patterns basically help you to just follow the process. So for example, patterns are often associated with software components, for example, GitHub, platform, website, and so on. So for example, how many of you have used GitHub, by the way? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
So I strongly recommend, if you are not using GitHub, start doing it. And anybody know what the GitHub is for? What
So
does it provide?
contributions and contributing with your team.
Okay, Bhagis, you got to add?
So I was saying like it can be used for open source contribution, working in a team. It is basically version management tool. So like
Version management, very nice.
if I have two versions of my mobile app, if one is
Mhm.
stable, I can just keep it in the background while I work on a more advanced version. If something
Exactly,
goes back, I can always go back to the original version that I had.
very nice. Vibhor, want to add anything?
Bhagesh said.
Vibhor,
Hello, am I audible?
your voice is very low.
Okay.
Okay, I cannot hear you, but I believe you are saying something good. Anyways. So these are some, you can say, good design pattern. So through which basically you can see here. So carousel pattern is an example. So similarly, this is for weather, and you may have some bad design pattern as well. So probably this is bad design pattern. It means something you need to avoid, right? So for example, anti-pattern. So don't do this or somehow, right? Or probably dark patterns, which you want to force the person to click something, right? So often the fishy website and probably the scam website often do so. So this is something you need to think of. Okay, so what is good design you can follow, what is the bad design you cannot follow, and so on. Okay, just give me probably okay. Okay, great.
Sir, how is that error message a bad design? It doesn't look that.
Hmm, probably we are unable to verify the information you entered. So instead of that, if you can tell what exact information you entered wrongly. So for example, if it is name, probably you can think of the field, whichever the field the person is looking for, right? So because if it is a form, right, you fill probably and in the form basically there are 10 questions, probably name, age, address, something, right? Rather than giving uh, some details, if you can be more specific, I think that's a good design pattern, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So there are some existing open resources, open source and resources basically. So so many of them are community driven, so available for interaction design. So even for the, so these days you might have seen there are several templates which are available now in order to you want to build some website. Probably not just probably 10 years before, it was not that many such resources are publicly available. So in that case, the people start writing the HTML pages in order to make the website, do the all the stuff for CSS. So so when you probably start doing the development, you'll get to know all these terms like CSS and probably the web pages, and then probably the designing and a lot of things you need to do. So what is good now? I mean, you have a lot of resources which they give you the template, and in the given template, different website or probably the app, you can just fill your own details and get it done, right? So a lot of resources. So these days, the culture of open source getting increased. Now you have the open source for many codes, many platforms, many components, as and many of are available into different licensing terms, and majority of them also available for free of charge that you can just use it. So these are some open source. So tools for interaction design. So basically tools support all aspects of the design process: creativity, sketching, simulation, brainstorming, library search, mind mapping, and the video capture. So tools generate together to speed up the prototyping, because that is something you want. Because if you don't have the tool, because from the name itself, tool is something to assist you to complete something, right? So these basically help you to so interactive wireframes mockups can be produced using these. So you also have use Figma to do so. Now Adobe one is also there. Someone's also mentioned about some I think mockups some students has mailed me they have used using this and so on. So the summary is Agile UX refers to the approaches that integrate user experience design as well as the Agile development. So it needs a balance between the search and reflection, and the rapid iteration, because this is important, but at the same time, you don't want to spend too much time on this, right? You have limited time. So about make a balance with the rapid iteration so that you have something concrete to show to the user. They can try, and then you keep improving over the time. Requirements are again repeatedly reprioritized, which seeks to avoid waste efforts. User experience design activities need careful planning, like when, how much, and how to take it forward. Design patterns and implementation libraries support good user experience design. There are open resources which I mentioned, like GitHub and all, help you in basically easier and the quicker. And finally, a range of automated tools to support interaction design in practice is available. So you can use these resources to get your work done. So with this, I end here, and then we can discuss about the poll.
Presentations. Still a few presentations are left.
Yes, sir. We also have to do a presentation.
Okay, so I asked on last Saturday. Anyways, I mean, we can go to your presentation after that in that case.
Sir, on Saturday there was no presentation. Today only there was.
Actually, no.
अच्छा चलो कोई बात नहीं, we can.
No was allotted that day.
Saturday को
Okay.
किसी को allot नहीं करी.
ठीक है. So let's go for one by one. So
Okay.
many of you have asked about what the project should have. I mean, what the project report should have. So I provided a detailed information here. So your project report should have the following sections, and you need to, in order to make it consistent across all the report, I want you to use Times New Roman font and the font size of 12, and the line spacing is 1.5. So you need to have the following sections. I think I posted somewhere. Yeah, you need to have following sections. You need to have a section abstract. Abstract is basically, you can say, a very short summary. Just think it like a sprint, right? Very short summary in just 150 to 200 words about what work you are solving, what problem you are solving, what is the challenges, and what is your solution. Just elaborate this in probably a detailed manner. So in the introduction, what you have to do, you have to expand this and probably add a little bit more details. So here, what I want you to do. So this section should include a detailed summary of the whole report, including motivation of with some examples, why you are solving this problem, problem definition. So similarly, who is the target user, existing challenges with the probably in the solution, existing solutions, and finally, what is you are going to solve. Methodology is about just provide the all details which Kanupriya has already asked for. So basically, you need to do the problem definition and the identifying target user, provide details for that. Requirement gathering, how you have done, what are the questionnaire survey, all those you have done, discuss about that. Ideation and the low fidelity prototype, that is you need to discuss here. High fidelity prototype, that is you need to discuss here. And finally, the some evaluation. You have already discussed at least a part of it in your tutorial, so you need to do the evaluation here and mention.
So I have a doubt.
Yeah.
So in what form we have to submit the high fidelity prototype? So because we are making Figma, do we have to share the link of our workspace, or?
So as part of the project, you need to submit everything, right? So this is just report I'm talking about. So apart from report, you also need to submit your high fidelity, like the source code or link, or whatever, the video as well.
So in Figma we have make frames, so we have to like submit a PDF of all those frames, or just link is enough?
So PDF is fine, but I mean the PDF is fine in the report, but you can create a video, right? You also need to create a video. So just add the all those frame in the video in the sequence how it is going to work.
Okay.
So the next part is analysis and the future work, because whatever the work you have done, okay. So you need to discuss what is your observation, what is the takeaway points from your survey, prototype, and limitations, and you also need to think of mention some future work, right? So because you might have proposed something, but what are the additional thing you can do? So that is something you can mention here. And finally, the conclusion, and lastly, the references. So just make sure whatever the references you are referring here, it is we want you to acknowledge them whenever it is possible. So for example, if you're talking about some tool, so if you discuss some tool, say in methodology, just mention that. Okay, so this is the reference which has been listed probably in the bottom. So that is about the project report guideline. Any questions here? Any questions?
Sir, what all do we need to do in the evaluation part?
Whatever the evaluation you can do.
Like,
from the,
yeah, what should we do? I'm not getting.
So for example, you build some prototype, right? So
Yeah.
one subjective evaluation you can do, you can take a survey or show this to probably 5 users. So these 5 users will rate whether it is something which they are expecting or not, right? So look at the tutorial where we have discussed about the evaluation. So whichever is feasible in your project, do so.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions on the project report?
So
Okay, yes, sir.
when we are playing this one, the final prototype, then it differs from system to system when how it works. Like if so, like how will we only be you will only be seeing the frames that we made and that's it, or otherwise running the final product, then it may differ from system to system.
No, I'm not getting what do you mean by system to system. So whatever the prototype that you give it to us, we'll evaluate that, we'll check that.
Okay, it means only the frames, then fine.
Okay, so any other questions? If not, then we can go for the poll that we have done. So one poll we have done, should we extend the project deadline to 15th of April? So I believe it's very clear, right? Most the people want extension, so it's granted. So now the project deadline will be of 15th of April. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, so the next question is,
Sir, is above, not this.
so the next question is, would you like to have an additional task for bonus mark or something? Because many people have mentioned like some due to many reasons, whatever the reason, they were not feeling well, or probably they were not ready, or whatever the reason, they were not able to probably perform very well in the quizzes or probably the exam. So they want something for their bonus task. So at least here as well, majority of, at least you can see here almost 3 times, at least, yeah, so majority of the people are saying, yeah, they need to have something. So I'm proposing we can have one task here for 5 marks.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So majority of thinking, and I also want to keep this task in such a way that it won't overburden you, right? Because definitely you want to do some additional task, but given that you already overloaded with the probably other projects, exams, a new task will be difficult for you, right? So we are going to have, yeah, so we are going to have something for bonus here. And what this bonus would be, so I'm planning we can have 5 marks bonus, and we will see how to adjust, how to grade this. I will tell you in a few minutes what I have in plan, I have in my mind. So the next question is, yeah, should we change the weightage of the project? So I propose do not change it, or make it 15 marks from 10, make it 20 marks from 10. So I believe in the section A, you mentioned there is 20 marks, right?
Yes, sir.
So, but I see that there are some resistance from some people, but definitely again, the majority of the people still think it's, we need to have it, we need to increase it. So what I'm proposing, we can keep it 15 marks so that they won't be too much dissatisfied, and these people as well, there won't be too much something different. So I'm planning we can keep it for 15 marks, and we can keep it for 15 marks on the project. And is this fine?
But then,
Yes, sir.
which marks will be deducted?
No, it won't be deducted, right? As I commented here, if you see my comment, nothing will be decreased. We can, in that case, the total marks will be 105 or 1010 instead of 100.
So, sir, if we do this, then you won't make another assignment for 5 marks.
What do you mean by another assignment? No, that's different. I'm coming to that. So it's just the changes we are making. So I'm just making the changes. We can, instead of 10, we can make it 15 because you guys putting a lot of efforts, right? You guys are making a lot of efforts. So I'm increasing it from 10 to 50. And for the bonus point of 5 marks, we can add here in the project, because there is 2 possibility, right? One possibility, I give you altogether a new task. And in that case, I think it will be a bit overwhelming. It will be probably too much work for you. So I'm planning. So firstly, we can increase this marks to 10 to 15 and add another 5 marks of bonus here to make it overall marks of 20. So in a way, in summary, what we can do, this 5 marks we can move here in the 15 marks that we are agreeing. So we can make the overall project marks of 20, so that basically those who want to put extra effort, improve on your project itself rather than creating a new task, because working in the project is basically something you can take away with you by end of the course, right? You will be very much satisfied. Okay, so look what you have learned, what you have contributed, and you will have something tangible to show in your biodata, in your basically the portfolio that you will be creating. You can show that, right? So in that way you can complete a very nice project without much additional efforts. You do not need to bother about the bonus mark, because which can be added here. And since it's a group efforts, I think it will be even easier for you guys, so that you can basically work in a team and get it done, a very good one. And it has many benefits, as I mentioned, in a portfolio, better profile, better marks, and teamwork, and so on. So this is I'm planning. Is everyone fine here with this proposed changes?
So would the bonus be also given on an individual basis, like the project evaluation was individual?
No. So the project again. So we are
Like-
going to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like the group project to group project was we will be graded on our as a group, not individually. Like after we give our contributions, like what each member has done. So will the bonus be graded in the same manner? Like everyone will get the same bonus marks, or will like it will be done individually?
So if you recall, in one of the post. So I believe you have seen this, right? So
Yeah,
you
we
need to mention the individual contribution of the team members. So whatever the bonus marks which I'm referring is refers to that, right? If some person is putting too much efforts in the team, we will give bonus mark to them. If some person is not putting efforts, if the person is not putting efforts in the group project, so they will only get the probably whatever the 15 marks we have, right? So we have 15 marks, right? So 15 marks for the group contribution, 5 marks for the individual contribution. So if some person is putting too much efforts in the project, and in that case they should be given bonus mark, right? If some person is just having fun, I mean, why he should be given bonus mark?
But in our group, if we have like planned it out, like everyone does the same amount of work, then what will happen in that case?
In that case, we can give bonus marks to everyone. So in a way, you guys basically can work to make the overall, because if it is equal marks, so it depends on like how much marks your project is having, right? So just work together in such a way you complete a very nice project, and you'll get you for example, you can get probably 15 out of 15 marks, and in the same proportion the bonus mark will be expended, and you will get 20 out of 20 marks, right, for everyone. So it's basically just to encourage the teamwork, just to encourage that everyone is contributing to the project. And because I also got a lot of complaint, like there are a few members who are not doing anything, right? So in that case they can get the whatever the overall group marks which everyone is getting, but they won't get probably the bonus marks.
Bonus marks. Okay.
Sir, I have a small suggestion. Because
sure.
we are increasing 10 minutes, 10 marks out. There'll be a total out of 110, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sir, we can normalize mid-sem out of 10 instead of 20. Then it'll
No.
total we can't do that.
So for mid-sem we already done so, right? So because as I said, it doesn't make too much difference to us whether it's 100 marks, total marks is 100, 105 or 110. We do the relative grading, right? So we follow, okay, so we are going to follow some normal curve, okay? So the top X people is going to have this grade, second group is going to have this grade, and so on. So it doesn't matter. So it might be the case probably the person having 100 marks may not get the best grade, because probably the other person in the group, not group, I mean in the class, may have probably much higher marks. In a sense, the cluster is around 105.
Yes, sir. I was not mentioning it to make it exactly 100. I was mentioning because the people were telling there were a lot of malpractices in mid-sem apparently. So that normalizing might bring the distance close.
Sir, but those who did do it properly then will lose. So I
Yes.
think जो पहले करा हुआ है ना, रखा हुआ है, जो already हो चुका है, उसको change करने का कोई फायदा नहीं है.
Yeah. So I think because that will have the pros and cons, right? I mean, some
Yeah.
people like, some people. So I think it's better just to keep it simple. Let's just increase the marks for project from 10 to 20, including 5 marks of bonus. That's it. And we also, since we are also extending the deadline, so earlier it was 4th of April, now we extended to 15th of April. So those who really want to work on the project, who really want to gain the bonus, who really want to perform well in the project, have enough and plenty time to do so.
So will there be tutorial today?
There will be tutorial today. So I think it should be. I need to check with the TAs, but yeah, it should be. What I will do, I will ask TA to be there at least. So if you guys have any questions, doubt, because we are not going to cover new details, because I think we are mostly cover everything, right? So what you guys can do, you can discuss whatever the project you have done, if you have any doubts on what part you have completed, something need to be added, so you can do so.
So sir, ultimately the project is a 15 and we don't have to do anything extra than the project for bonus activities. You'll just adjust the bonus marks in the project.
Yeah. So in a way you can, in a simple term, just think it like the project is now 20 marks instead of 10. And based on the individual contribution, we are going to give the bonus. Or you can say, based on the individual contribution, we are going to give marks to everyone.
Yeah, okay.
So the same, so for example, in the group, there are 5 students. It doesn't mean that everyone will get the same marks. The person who is contributing more, I mean, little bit less or more is fine, but there is a kind of good enough gap. That is something, I mean, yeah, we need to think on probably accordingly.
Sir,
make sure in that case, just make sure that you guys work in a team. You guys mention in your report, everyone has contributed equally. And that is only doable if you guys will do, right? So for example, if I got to know, for example, a person X has contributed significantly, because it's not just writing, right? We are also going to evaluate. We are also going to check. Okay, so tell me, show me, implement it, what you have done. So it should be discussed in your team, and accordingly you need to write who did what, how much.
Sir, if all the members of the group have contributed equally in each of the step, like in project or design, so then we will have.
If it is equal, then it's good, right? So I mean, we really want, because we want to give the equal opportunity to everyone. So for even for the bonus, right? We don't want to introduce some new task for the bonus which probably affect others who really don't want to have extra work. So in that case, the simplest solution is just increase the project marks from 10 to 20. And since we are evaluating based on the individual contribution, if everyone is contributing equally, that's great.
Sir,
Yes, Arthur.
sir, like you know how we work is nowadays we're developing a high level prototype. What we do is like at night, we all will join in a meet, and then we'll open the Figma or whatever it is, and then we all will work together, like 4 to 5 people working on the same thing. So like everyone is actually working simultaneously. Like we're talking also what to do, and then we're like discussing, and then we're working.
So that is good, man. So that is exactly what I want. That is exactly I want. I want you guys to work as a team and divide the task equally, or little bit less or more is fine. But there shouldn't be like, I just want to avoid the case, and there are such cases actually, where in the 5-member team, 2 people are doing most of the work, rest of 3 people are having fun. So that is the case I want to remove. That is the thing I want to warn. Still there is enough time. If these guys can basically still have enough time to help the remaining team do significant work, or at least they try to show some efforts to complete that, in that case, yeah, it's fine.
No, so sir, like in our case, whom should we write? Like who did the high level prototype? We have to write everyone's name, right? Then.
So I mean, that is fine. Just write everyone's name. That is perfectly fine.
So then, do we write that each of us has contributed equally to the project in the project report?
Yes. So look, I mean, if in your report you mention that everyone has contributed equally, we don't have any issue at all. That's why I said you need to first select a project leader who will submit the report, and the group leader basically will show the report, and probably you'll get the consensus with the remaining team members. Okay, so this is something you guys have feel about it. So for example, in a team of 5, all of you think, okay, so all of you contributed equally, we are perfectly fine. We don't want to bother you. But if we got to know that, because you need to write in your report, right? I mean, not everyone has contributed equally, because I got many complaints for that. Just write in the report. Okay, so this person has contributed not equally, or you can mention the percentage. What we can do, we will ask you in the report, mention how much you have contributed. So for example, there are 5, one person mentioned 40%, another person mentioned 40%, and remaining person probably just mentioned 5. In that case, again, so it might be the case the person whom you are writing 5% will complain, okay, so nahi, maine 5 nahi kiya, zyada kiya. That's fine. We want to identify such cases, and we want to manually check their contribution thoroughly through the interview, through the looking at the report, and take a call. It is indeed 5%, or it is probably more or equal.
So can't we like mention whatever things we have done rather than mentioning the exact percentage? Like this person worked on this part, this person worked on this part. Because if we write it directly in percentages, then it can be kind of a problem.
It may be misleading also, like.
No, what kind of problem?
How will we know that how much the team leader has written?
Whatever the thing is, whatever the educated guess you have, because I got to know, right? I mean, some people mention कि यार मेरा group member काम ही नहीं कर रहा है. Just mention 0. अगर वो काम नहीं कर रहा है, it means he is not going to submit the report, right? If there are more than one submission for a report, we understand like there are some conflict, and we want to find out those conflicts. And once we find those conflicts, we will thoroughly check that, and we will take a call who contributed how much. So it's just a message, because in the ideal case, we want that everyone contribute to the project equally. At least make efforts to complete the project equally.
So how will a group member know that how much percentage the person who is submitting has written?
No. So अरे जैसे 5 लोग हैं team में, right? So there is 5 members.
Yes, sir.
All 4 people are saying, yet 5th person has not done anything, not participating in the meeting, whatever the subjective parameter you can choose, right? So these 4 people can write, right? So we all contributed 20%, 25% equally, and this remaining 3rd person had not contributed anything. You just write 0% for that. It's just a warning. It's just a warning message to those people who are not contributing to the project. It's their responsibility as well to contribute equally to the project so that the project get completed well.
So if all people have contributed equally, then all of us will get bonus 5 marks.
Yes, we can give equal for. So that's why we want to encourage teamwork, right? If all students in the team contributed equally, we can give bonus 5 marks to everyone. If some people who probably contributed more, some people contributed less, so the person who contributed more will get more marks as compared to the person who don't contribute.
So, like you told us that like if we have to take our project to the next level in order to earn the bonus. Like we should do something different or more than the people who are doing it in the regular fashion. So, like, can you give an example? Like, what do you mean when you said that something worth adding to your own CV, and like how what kind of thing are you expecting? Like, what should we do?
No, as part of the course project, I'm not expecting what should be beyond that. As part of the course project, right now I'm expecting complete the as much as detailed low fidelity you can. Complete as much as detailed and the clear high fidelity you can. That's it.
Okay.
At least for the course project. And after the course project, we can discuss further. Okay, so what can be further done in order to publish, in order to probably complete the overall running system. I mean, take it to the next level from you can say the prototype to a real product.
Okay.
So in order to simplify, let me just simplify that because it may lead to probably some confusion. Just think in that way. So now we will follow this, and the project marks will be from 20 marks instead of 10. That's it. So if everyone is contributing, that's great. We will basically kind of grade accordingly out of 20. If some people is not contributing in the project, in the group, it means they are going to give less marks. So it's just a warning message to the people who are not contributing in the group.
Sir, in a case where one person is making the prototype and like the rest of the like 3 members are writing the file and they do not contribute, so how is he supposed to submit? Like only the prototype, or then how do?
Hey, whatever you guys have completed, you need to submit, right? And when you submit, you mention, okay, so these are the prototype and that is the contribution. So for example, you assign to, because you divide the task after some discussion, right? You divide the task among yourself based on discussion. Okay, so I will complete this part, you complete this part, you complete this part. If you completed your part, it means, I mean, you are good, right? If the other person who have probably signed up for some task, they said, okay, they will complete, but they did not complete. In that case, they are going to lose the marks accordingly. So in a way, I leave the decision to you guys as a group to decide if you guys are working equally or whether some person is working, other person is having fun.
So what if a person from our group has taken the larger amount of the project in his own hands so that he will get more marks?
Yeah, so that's why as a group you need, because as a group, as a evaluator, it's difficult for me to divide who did what, right? If there is a 5 members and you guys think, okay, so for example, Yash has completed 50%. He took basically a lot of work because other people were not working. So in that case, he can mention, right? He completed the 50% of the work and remaining 50% has been done by these people in this percentage. So this educated guess can only be determined by you guys. We are not able to do so just by looking at who completed which point. Of course, we will thoroughly interview you, discuss you, to justify. You need to justify. Okay, so if you are mentioning you done 50%, then justify us how you are saying it's 50%. In ideal case, everyone contribute equally. In cases where some members are contributing more, in a sense, I mean, because other person are not working, we will deal accordingly.
Sir,
Yeah.
can you just tell about the distribution of marks in the different parts of the project?
What distribution you're referring to? So we have three
Like
parts.
how much marks are for prototype, low fidelity, high fidelity, and the writing part?
So we discussed this earlier whether need to share or not. Just right now you can think of okay, so let me discuss with the TAs again, because I have discussed with them. Then TAs have an objection in sharing the details, what's the rubric, but at least think in that way, right? So you need to complete three parts: report, demo, and the all the source code and probably the demo that you have. Just give your best in everything. All are important. I would say all are important.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, with all these changes, are we still having the extra quiz on Wednesday?
Extra quiz? That's no extra quiz, right? The quiz is already defined. So we are going to have 5 quizzes. Out of these 5 quizzes, we are going to consider best of 4. So there is no changes.
So the fifth one is on Wednesday this week.
No, 5th one is on the day of examination.
Okay.
So we are going to have our 4th quiz on this Wednesday, and the 5th one will be on the day of final examination, probably after the final examination. Okay?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So only changes you can see here. So only changes what we are doing. We are increasing the marks of, you can see the project, similar to say section A, from 10 to 20. That's it. And we are going to make sure that we want to encourage that every member should contribute. If we will get the case where we got to know that some people are contributing, some are not, that's why we have introduced this thing. And based on that, we will thoroughly look into the more details, we will interview, and accordingly we will give you the marks. So it would be great if you guys can collaborate, you guys can help each other in the team, take tasks to complete and convince among yourself, convince yourself and probably the other members, okay, you are also putting efforts, you are also contributing to the project. The other member shouldn't have the feeling that he's the one only who is working in the project. You guys are not. So just make sure this won't happen. Okay?
Sir, also I have a doubt regarding the NSEM.
Yeah.
So the MCQ questions will be all multiple type, or there will be single choice also?
Mostly the multiple types. Most of the question will be multiple type, and there may be single type question as well. There may be probably some filling the blanks related question as well.
And every chapter covered till now will come, right?
Yeah, we are going to cover everything. We are going to cover all the chapters we have covered till now.
So, and then will there be partial marking?
No, there is no partial mark.
Yeah, sorry to ask, sir. Can you just again explain about the bonus marks? I'm little confused.
Forget about bonus mark. Just think about now we have 20 marks of project.
Yeah, so it is cancelled, right? The 5 bonus marks.
Just think it that way. Just as I said, like if it is getting the complicated, just think it like that way. So now we have increased the project weightage from 10 to 20, and we will be grading based on how much you are contributing. If the whole group thinks everyone has contributed equally, everyone will get equal marks. If the group thinks probably 2 persons have not contributed equally, we will give them less marks after verification. It's not just like what you'll write. Whenever the case, you will mention that not all members have contributed equally. We will thoroughly check that part. We will thoroughly interview you, discuss you, and accordingly give the marks. And based on our confidence, who contributed how much, and accordingly we'll give the marks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone?
The presentation.
Okay, so how many groups are left?
There are 3, I guess.
So do we have
Today is the
all,
last.
so do we have all 3 groups here today?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so who want to go first?
Can
Sir,
we
we go first, sir. So
Sir,
you can make co-host.
Sir, can
Jay?
we go? Yes, sir. Sir, can I go first with my group?
Yeah, so Jay, I made you co-host. You can
Sir,
share
can
your
you make
screen.
Arshad?
Sir, make me co-host, Arshad.
Yes, sir.
Sir, make Dakshpal Singh co-host.
Harshit?
Yes, sir. Make Arshad the co-host.
Arshad, not Harshit. ARSHD, Arshad.
Yes, sir.
No, which one? Harshit, right? Harshit Garg.
No, Arshad Iqbal.
Arshad Iqbal.
Sir, it's
Arshad.
Arshad, not Harshad.
Okay, so Arshad, I made you co-host. Please share your screen. Please make sure to finish your presentation less than 10 minutes. We are running out of time. I'm going to stop you at what stage you are immediately after 10 minutes. So please make sure to complete your presentation in less than 10 minutes. So Arshad, please share your screen. Who's the next group? Please tell your name.
Sir, Dakshpal Singh, group number 6_4.